Happy Halloween, everybody. We'll be getting started on our webinar in a few minutes. The scary realities of compliance-driven e-learning. I hope we'll have a hunting good time today. And for those that are joining now, if you find your chat panel or chat in your control panel, click on that. You'll find the drop down that says all panelists. Drop it down and change to all panelists and attendees so that you can let your comments be known, ask questions of our panel and our back channel people. To get started, see how things are going, we just want to find out where you're haunting us from today and put in there what your favorite candy is or favorite costume. Today I'm dressed up as the Invisible Man, so if I turned on my camera, you still wouldn't be able to see me. Scott's favorite candy is Snickers. Lisa's Snickers. Carrie, who's with us today, is Snickers, and some strange Sour Patch watermelon thingy bob that Claire likes, because I couldn't remember everything that she said. So let us know, start chatting, and we'll be getting going here in like 3 minutes. Okay, waiting for time to pass in the spooky days, a few days before Halloween. Again, for those joining us in the last minute or so, just to find the chat button in your control panel. Let us know where you're hunting us from today and put in there what kind of, what's your favorite candy.
We've had some good ones, Rich. Also, I was thinking, too bad it's not later in the day. We could do drinking game alert for every pun you make about Halloween. Because already you've used haunting and the Invisible Man, so you've had some good ones. We have people from all over the world: Denmark, Belgium, Northern California. This is awesome. Shepherdstown, San Diego, Chicago, Johnstown, of course, Baltimore, yay. So welcome, everyone.
And getting things rolling more on, if along with the candy, if you have any specific compliance issues that you're thinking about today, that'll help us out as we get started here in about a minute.
Anna, you get bonus points for joining us at 6 a.m. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, and Bobby, I love it. Not picky about your candy as long as it's chocolate. That's awesome.
It's never too early to think about candy. I'm surrounded by peanut butter M&Ms and M&M characters. It's what do I call it, Lisa? My power pills.
Your power pills. David, you'll have to send us your dance party video after Halloween. And Jason's taking candy from his kids.
Okay, I hear the bells tolling. It's 12 o'clock Central Time, so thank you all for joining us today at the Scary Realities of Compliance-Driven E-Learning. Hopefully have lots of tricks and treats for you today. we're going to get started. Just those who hadn't. Oh, that's creepy. Hadn't seen. If you haven't found the chat button, please find it in your control panel, and where it says all panelists, drop it down and say all panelists and attendees. We have several people on the back channel that can answer questions, and Scott and Lisa will be answering questions. So any questions, comments, or advice that you can add in there, please do so. Our panelists today will be Stortz and Scott Colehour, who's one of our senior solutions architect and co-founder of Allen Interactions, and Lisa Bones Stortz. She's the doctor of all e-learning as a senior solutions architect. So with that, take it away, Dr. Bones.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Rich mentioned, absolutely keep that back channel going. We know a lot of you, we all learn from each other, so we love all your insights and ideas. So just keep busy in the back channel. We have lots of colleagues helping monitor that. So today we're excited. We're going to show more than a dozen different examples so you can experience the difference firsthand. And our marketing team did an awesome job of matching these to candy themes. So with sanctions and regulations, obviously, whatchamacallit, right? Tons of different terms. We'll go through how you can make that interesting and meaningful. Of course, we want to do what we can do to help our colleagues understand insider trading. Often we read in the headlines how they just weren't aware, so we want to keep that intact. Data privacy, confidentiality, money laundering. We're going to be covering a lot of topics. So please go to the chat window and let us know when you think of compliance training in your organization, what are some of the key topic areas you need to cover? Anything from confidentiality, maybe it's security, do you deal with money laundering, insider trading, privacy? So just go to the chat window and let us know. That'll help us tailor the presentation a little more to your specific needs. Scott, you want to go to the next slide? Oh, just go to the next slide. Thanks. Awesome. So we're going to get started with some sanction examples. And in the chat window too, Scott, I'll be monitoring, but we're getting a lot of great topic areas. So Scott?
All right, let's jump over to a project we did on sanctions and control and export controls for AIG. One of the things that we're going to be showing I guess it's less about the content areas and more about the design and how you can take these designs and move them into your type of content areas. But in this one, one of the things about economic sanctions is they happen all over the world, and so we wanted to not just present them with what countries are under comprehensive sanctions, but where these countries are on the map, and really help them understand visually what's going on. So these are just a number of ways you can explore and help understand where these sanctions might be coming from. And this is going to help us a little bit later in our course as well. After you do some exploration, we're going to be introducing, and again, some of these compliance are annual compliance, so they're components that everybody needs to take on a yearly basis, and we all know that can be really boring, and if all we're doing is reading stuff that we already know. So what we try to do is make it a little more interesting and fun. In this case, you're just reviewing, and if you're not as knowledgeable, you can read through and understand some of these different sanction lists. And again, based on some information, you're going to be using these things in a scenario. I know that many of you have probably been to some of our webinars in the past, and we do a lot of situational context type of design. So in this case, what we're doing is helping that learner understand with a story about how these sanctions might play out in a real world situation. And so in this case, we're introducing a clothing designer who's trying to sell some of their clothing in Europe, outside of Europe, in South America. And so they're going to be shipping clothes to South America. So along the way, what we'll be doing is presenting situations that happen. She finds an opportunity to export her products to South America, and all these scenarios are components of understanding how these economic sanctions might play out in a real world situation. So we've got a cargo being transported by boat, and you have to understand who the owner of these boats are, and where they're located. Here's a stop. The ship actually makes a fueling stop in Cuba, and then finally our destination is this purchaser in South America. And by the way, this person was on an SDN list 3 years ago. So just to make it more interesting, instead of just plopping out a bunch of text, we're creating this experience where they're seeing how this plays out. And then in the next segment, let's see, what we're going to be doing is asking them to think about these things and decide, is there some sanctions investigation that needs to happen? And so the learner can read through the different waypoints and information. And if they think that there's a situation they need to investigate, they click on this flag and they flag these components for consideration in their sanctions investigation. Once they've completed that, we're going to ask them to hit submit, and then the system will walk you through each decision you've made and give you some additional information about whether these are correct or incorrect assumptions around sanctions. And so here we're going to walk through, that was correct, we should have flagged this, and it gives you some, it doesn't just say, hey, you're correct, but it gives you additional information around what is correct about that and why you made the right decision. I think that's a really good tip, is always use that feedback for helping them understand why and why not they were correct or incorrect within the designs. And then we walk them through, and as it summarizes, we'll say, nope, we should have actually flagged this one because this person was on this SDN list. And then what will happen is it'll go and we can decide on how many of these different scenarios we want to give them to cover the breadth of information we want to provide. So this is just a fun way to, again, introduce and walk them through scenarios and have them apply and think about these economic sanction components.
Yeah, two key points on that one. One of the big pain points with sanctions is just the knowledge, right? You think you're shipping from one safe country with no sanctions to another safe country, but it's all the in-between ports where people were getting tripped up. So fun way to bring that to life. The other, Scott mentioned the feedback and how important that is. For those of you familiar with Alan, and one of our base design philosophies is CCAF, which is context, challenge, activity, and feedback being a key and important. So Rich, if you don't mind posting the CCF paper too, that might be a good resource for people. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Another concept that we use when we're using this compliance is breadth and depth of situations. Again, we don't just say, here's the law, read it, and then try to apply it to a concept. We show them these concepts and say, now here's the law that applies to this. So in this case, we're looking at as AIG is an insurer, they're asked to, they can't insure something that has got export control laws that violate these shipping mandates and laws. So what we do is here we've got 5 different situations. These are helicopter blades. They're from a factory in Egypt to a private company in Algeria. And so you've got to decide, is that permissible? Do I need to report this to compliance as a possible violation? Here we've built in and we let the student know that if you don't know, don't guess, but you can actually go to the hint, and we're going to talk about some of these components of what our export control laws are made of, so they can read it and then apply it to what they're looking at. So I'm going to say we need to report this because it could be a military component, and in fact, that's the case. We can go forward, and then we get another situation. And so showing breadth and depth of how these laws and these export controls.
Scott, I think we just lost your screen, or I did at least.
Oh, really? Oh.
No, it's gone completely.
Okay. Well, I can get that back.
And this is where we go to shadow puppets in the theme of Halloween. There we go.
Into the dark
Perfect.
house.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes,
Perfect.
we're back.
We're back. Okay.
I hope nobody got attacked by that vampire in the corner.
So again, just showing different situations, how it plays out will make that content more sticky. It'll make it more fun and interesting because it's more contextual based than just reading the rules and regulations to them.
Perfect, Scott. And can you show us an example too where you might want to quantify this? Maybe not the content area specific, but the interaction more in KPI. Perfect.
Yeah. So in this case, this is again presenting different situations, different scenarios. But what we're doing is showing these dashboards. So many organizations have different dashboards around where they're vulnerable in sanctions and export laws and global communication laws. So these could actually be different, different dashboards. And as you get a situation, make a selection, then these KPIs will change. And if at some point during this simulation of different things you need to deal with, you drop below certain risk analysis points, the system will stop and say, you know what, you're not doing this correctly. The company is in danger of some heavy fines and things like that. And so using these controls, these different dashboard controls to help that student understand how decisions will affect different KPIs within the organization around this risk component I think is important.
Perfect.
All right.
Scott, that's perfect. And if you can note as you go to, if any of these are done in Storyline or other tools, Michael, thanks for posting that in the chat window. The majority of the work we do is HTML5 because we have the skill set and also because we like the maximum interactivity. But we do a lot in Storyline, and our colleague Ethan often demos what can be done in Storyline and some of the other tools. So happy to point those out as we go along. Thanks,
so
Scott. How about
just as a recap, all this stuff that was done for AIG, this is all Storyline.
Oh, perfect. So it was all Storyline. Awesome. Great.
Yep.
Perfect. Let's move on to how about insider trading?
All right. So with insider trading, again, it's we're using storytelling to introduce some situations that are typical in insider trading. It's oftentimes, when we did this for MasterCard, they were saying it's oftentimes just innocent conversations that you have no idea that you're providing information to somebody else that they might use. And so we wanted to highlight that and bring that to life. So let's just play this little introduction storytelling component.
Sasha, you're in a good mood today.
It's just been a really, really good week at work.
Yeah, MasterCard is treating you right, huh? You get a promotion?
Not yet. Just have a big deal coming through. Should be a real game changer for the company. I probably shouldn't say anything about it right now, so mum's the word. But yeah, it's definitely going to give me some great visibility. In a year, who knows?
That's really awesome. Congratulations. Cheers.
Nostrovia.
Salud.
Hey, Dennis, I think I want to buy some MasterCard stock.
Hey, sure thing. How much?
Let's make it a lot. I have a feeling about this.
Sasha may have left the game without a second thought or
So using these introductory video components to, again, bring the subject matter to life, to introduce some concepts, I think is really important in helping it, stick and tell a great story or an interesting story to the learner. So once you go through some of the background information, then we'll take them through some additional situations that might play out in this particular content.
or how this can play out in practice. Meet Juan, a MasterCard employee. He's been reviewing the company's quarterly earnings release that is going to be issued next week. On the earnings call, MasterCard will be announcing a new partnership with TechCo, a deal that Juan has also been working on. The deal is not going to be of too much interest to the investment community for MasterCard stock, but it is expected to really have an impact for TechCo. So Juan is definitely busy working on material non-public information, our earnings release, and a deal involving one of our clients, TechCo, which is anticipated to be a game changer for TechCo. Let's see how the rest of his week wraps up.
Hi, Carl. You know those home improvements are costing more than I thought they would. It's a pretty good price in the market right now for MasterCard stock, so I would like to sell some shares to cover my expenses.
Which one of these is prohibited by MasterCard?
So again, using those stories as backdrops, as a backstory for situations that that might be less than that some people wouldn't understand. Hey, I'm just selling some stock to do some home improvements, but then you have to answer some questions about that situation to see if they were properly applying the MasterCard.
Correct. You are not allowed to trade when in possession of material non-public information. Juan knows our earnings results, which have not been publicly released, and which a reasonable investor would want to know.
So again, you can see the additional feedback on why this is should be something you should think about in some of those details. So,
And Scott, I think this is a great example too of one of our other design philosophies, which is test tell. So often in compliance training, and please in the chat window, let us know if this sounds familiar to you. We bombard the learner with all kinds of rules and regulations, but there's no meaningful context around it, and they don't get to do anything. All the fun stuff's later after we've told them, and then we test them. So we put them in scenarios and let them try to work through it so they can viscerally experience the nuances, because it's, often compliance isn't a black and white situation. It's in the gray zone where it's like, ooh, is it not? So we kind of bring it to life. So test, tell, put them in the scenario and let them test them through it and then offer it in the feedback. Thanks, Scott.
all right. Moving on to our next example. This was done for DTCC, Depository Trust, and it was on money laundering. Again, in this scenario, what we've done is created some different options around understanding money laundering, people putting together a shell company to gain knowledge and information that they can use, fraudulent stock trades, and confidential information. And so when you go into one of these scenarios, you're going to be given some background on the situation. In this case, this one is a little bit older, but I still think that it shows well in that what we're doing is presenting that learner with some areas to investigate, and we're wanting them to think through, different triggers that might trigger you to do some additional investigation, to report it to the fraud group within the organization. And so here's a situation where when you click on Google Earth to investigate this company, that it appears that their address is given as an industrial area instead of a business district. So that potentially might be something that is of interest to you. And over here on your device, you're going to show these suspicious items. If I call and talk to the customer calls me, I'm going to be asking some different questions based on their response. They have a location in Maine, but all their phone numbers are Toronto. So Is that suspicious? And as you go and select these different questions, you can then see how these will then start to populate. And the last thing would be you get some correspondence, and looking through that correspondence to again map some different thought processes that just don't add up for this particular company and wanting to do business with VTCC. So once you've done some investigation, you're presented with some of these areas, then we can say we're done investigating. And the next thing they want you to do is think, are any of these, more suspicious? If you select this, we'll give you some information on why this is unusual and why here are some additional points of information you should be thinking about. The phone area codes are definitely something that are suspicious based on where their headquarters are. And so as you go through this, we'll then decide that you've got some good information and what are our follow-up actions based on what you've identified. So we really want to take that learner through the process of applying these money laundering concepts and triggers through the steps that they would actually go through in this mini scenario, if you will, of how they might apply it. So gathering information, identifying items that could be suspicious, and then what are your follow-up actions based on that. And it again feels a little bit more like a game where you're going through different levels and making sure that you're applying these concepts correctly. So when you actually do this on your job, you can start to think, oh yeah, here are phone numbers that are not, don't seem correct to me. I should flag that. And I think this is a great way again to present these compliance concepts with these scenarios.
Perfect. And Scott, we've had some great feedback in the chat window, so I'm going to tag team a few of these together. Nelliest brought up, what process do we use to get the information from the SMEs to build the scenarios, and how long does it take? So, and that kind of goes tag and tag with Callie, yours on how do we address the pushback we get from clients on not on the test tell, right? That they just want to tell them. So our experience has been often the subject matter experts walk in with their, wagon full of binders and their 20 years of experience, and they want to impart the knowledge and they want to make sure everybody's got all the specific details. But so often with our learners, we're not trying to make a 20-year seasoned pro out of it. We're trying to introduce concepts and make sure, all employees get the compliance information they need. So as far as the test tell, the best way to do that, to have them just experience the difference. And we have a number of examples we can provide you, Kelly, that are showing, like, if you just bombard them with information, in the tell test format, or as someone else pointed out, they call it park and bark, which I thought was awesome. So that park and bark concept, as opposed to if we just put them in the scenario. All that content your SMEs want in there will be in there. It'll just be in the resources or the feedback. So everything they're telling you need to impart, we're just going to do it when the learner is actually ready for it. And that kind of goes to the other, now list how we work with SMEs. We just keep driving to, what do you need the learner to be able to do when they're done? And they'll say, well, we need them to know this, we need them to know that. And then you say, what do you need them to do when they're done? And it's going to take a while to drill down to get to the do versus no. Scott, did you have some thoughts on that?
Yep, no, that's exactly right. It's that starting with what should they be able to do with this that I think is so critical. And then always using that as if they don't know this information that you want them to know, can they do their job? And if you say, yes, they can, then you have to park it. And if they say no, then it's a crucial part of knowledge that needs to be built in for the apply. So, all right. So this next example is antitrust, and here's another way to present scenarios and situations that again I think is easier than creating a video, creating an animated movie. This is using slides as a kind of our backdrop, and so this can be done in any type of tool. And in this case, what we're going to be doing is presenting a situation this is for Lutron on antitrust, and here we show a slide. Two people are meeting. One is from not a competitor, but somebody who provides a product that uses Lutron tools. And as you go through this, the story unfolds. And then at the end, what we're doing is looking for you to review a few different options on how to handle or how to apply this situation that you've been presented. And so there might be 2 or 3 different components that you can read through. Once you've identified that, you can lock in the story. Now, this is another subtle design, instructional design component here, that we're not showing all 3 different options at the same time, so they can look through, they can compare. Maybe one answer is longer than the other. We're showing them separately, so they have to read through and think about, okay, that other one said this. And again, it gets to a deeper understanding of the content when you provide the distractors separately as opposed to all at once. And so this is just another fun way to again present this type of story. You lock in the story, and then you can get additional information on why that was correct or incorrect application of how you would handle that antitrust situation. So,
and we should point out Lutron's a lighting company, so
Yeah.
you may notice in the look and feel this wasn't purposely done for a Halloween backdrop. That they do everything kind of in the darkness and then bring it into the light. So you'll notice all of our media very different client to client, right? Because everything we do is custom. So thanks,
Yeah.
Scott.
This next one on anti-bribery, again, this one goes more to the presenting of a number of challenges, of situations that might happen across the globe. This is a global organization, and so here we've got different ways that anti-bribery might play out for different situations. Again, we're presenting a scenario and asking the learner to think about, is this an okay business dealing, or, this violates anti-bribery laws. And so just these simple situations where we're giving them a whole host of different scenarios that might apply differently to different situations, I think is an important way to provide this concept. And so again, when we say, does it violate, does it not violate? That's kind of a 50-50 guess, if you will, and they might get it right just because they guessed on it. And so in those cases, oftentimes what we'll do is create a secondary question that says, okay, you said it was not, or it was anti-bribery. Now, tell us why you think that, right? So it's that follow-up question to really get at, do they know why they said yes or why they said no? And then you can select that, and then we get the additional feedback where, no, this is incorrect. You did not get the right answer, or provide the right characteristic of why you selected that first yes or no answer. And so so then we go through a number of situations and give them again, more breadth of experience on how this might play out in the real world. The last one on Lutron we're going to show is moving into more of a corporate communications style. This one is understanding careful communications with customers and social media, and how it can have consequences for the organization. And so in this one, we're again asking them to read through this email and decide, is this something that you think is appropriate to send, or should I edit it? And so again, we're back to our 50-50 guess. I'm going to say we're going to edit it because that's what most people would do. They probably wouldn't present me right out of the gate with something that was good. So we say that's right. Now we want you to think about what are the areas of this email that you think are problematic. So the learner would go through here and they might, click on, somebody said catastrophic failure. Okay, so that's something that that they realize is a problem. And now what they have to do is actually categorize, what do you think is wrong with that? Is that a legal issue? Is that legally binding for the organization? Is it an exaggeration? Is it, on second thought, this is actually okay? And so once they've selected it, then they have to select what category they think that issue resides in, submit it, and we get feedback, and then we move on to see if there's other areas of this that need to be identified. So again, that goes to context, to how it might play out in the real situation, but these are all fun and interesting ways to present the content that does not seem like the same old information dump to a learner.
Fantastic. And that was a good example. We're kind of hitting into the situational security area right now. So some of the topics we're going to cover and examples we're going to show here are the communication one that Scott just shared. We're going to go on to like expenses and things, passwords, physical security, when you have those giant guidebooks that your SMEs are insisting that you have the learner go through, phishing examples, and cybersecurity. But please go to the chat window, and if there's any other topic areas under situational security you think of, let's know, and we can touch on those. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so what we'll do is move over to this is for Oppenheimer, and I'm going to just enlarge this a little bit. So this is a large securities group that has annual compliance. One of the areas is understanding gifts and entertainment and how you actually apply that to certain situations. And so what we've done here is given that learner the ability to go to resources and read some additional information if that's important. If they don't feel they know enough about gifts and entertainment, we've told them to always go to the resources, and we're going to bring up content that applies to this. But in this situation, what we're going to be doing is giving them some scenarios where they have to actually do things like logging gifts, deciding if it's too much money. Here we go away from the accept or reject, right? This is the yes or no, but we also added a seek guidance button. So this is that fail-safe design where if the person doesn't really understand the scenario and the situation, they can seek guidance and get additional information about different dollar limits. So this is just a hint on what you should be asking yourself, what you should be thinking about as far as gifting policies and dollar limits. And so I'm going to say we should reject this. We get some feedback from our coach that says, that's right. We have $100 limit. And then the next thing would be another scenario. So here we have 2 of 7 scenarios. We're going to accept this one. And then it brings up another secondary question about, do we have to report this? Is this something that needs to be reported? Do you need to write this down? Do you need to enter this into our system? And if they say yes, then we have to drag a dollar amount into one of the different gift logging categories for that particular situation. So again, creating and thinking how learners apply these concepts in their daily job and creating that sense of experience, I think is a huge step in moving forward and taking compliance out of the doldrums, the boring, the geez, I have to do this again, to make it a more fun, interesting, and memorable experience for those learners.
And Scott, I think this is such a great example of CCAF again, right? So as a reminder, CCAF is context, challenge, activity, and feedback. So we put them in a meaningful context, right? We don't have them just go read a guidebook or do something. It's, hey, this is happening to you. You have to fill out these expenses. You have to comply. So it's a meaningful context. We give them a challenge, right? What they're doing. And we do multi-step on the challenges just to make sure they're really reinforcing the key points. In this case, a lot of the reporting. We give them activities, right? They get to drag things over. They get to, and I know several of you have been talking accessibility in the back channel, and correct, drag and drops are tough in 508, but there's a number of ways we could do that. And we're happy to share that on an upcoming accessibility webinar that we'll be doing from all your feedback on this. So we give them a context, a challenge, lots of activities, and then feedback again. And that's where all that learning, that's where all that SME content comes in, because it's kind of a Google-driven world, right? I want to make a decision, I want to make a choice, and then you give me the feedback, because then I'm ready for it, either reinforcing why my decision was correct, or can you give me the reasons why it wasn't? Simon likes to know, Scott, how long does it take to create these?
Typically when we start, an engagement with one of our clients, one of our partners, it can range from, 6 to 12 to 14 weeks. That's, and that's a hard question to answer, because some of these projects are much larger. Like if you went to the menu of this one, this was one activity of a number of different activities in their annual compliance training, right? So but it often, some of the depending factors are, how good is the content? Is it actually in good shape? Obviously, oftentimes we're taking just baseline information about compliance, rules, regulations, and trying to overlay these scenarios and situational application. And so that can take a little bit more time, because we're interviewing subject matter experts, we're interviewing stakeholders, managers around, what they think are some of the most important concepts in situational application that we have to write these scenarios around. Obviously, visual, the design of the actual media. So, we look at, a 6 to 12 to 14 week period to create something from start to finish. And there's a lot of factors that go involved, that are involved in that. So
Scott's being politically correct as he can with it's really dependent on our clients' turnaround times and their regulations, how solid is the content. So we hate to say depends, but it really does depend. But generally that 4 to 16 week time frame. Scott, let's move on to a fun video one with passwords. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that, some organizations have a more stringent, compliance process as well, like anything dealing in banking, financials, things like that, where the content needs to go through lawyer reviews and things like that, can add, time on as well. So we just have to be aware of those when we're designing.
And also we're creating a lot of really interactive models now. Again, they're done in HTML5, but they have easy editor backends. Those allow us to turn things, populate with content and turn them in a week or two, because the model's already existing. So we're probably going to be doing a whole upcoming webinar just on that. But we really, if you can do that in your organization, you may find it helpful. So we're going to go on to a fun video example now on passwords.
Yeah, so at Autodesk, they got a lot of feedback from their employee base on how extremely boring their their annual compliance training was, and they wanted to do something that they would remember and take it out of the doldrums. And so in this case, we're going to be able to choose your different group that you're in. There's going to be some different situational application done for business support, sales and marketing, platform and product engineering. So when you select this, you then get some different modules. One is password management. So let's see how they introduce this.
Hey, buddies.
Where did you go?
Just a second. Okay.
We gotta go. Oh, yeah, man, come on.
No, if you could just please,
Hi, I'm Lakshmi. I'm a passwords manager. I'm here on a top secret, super special assignment. Do you want to help me with it?
What is it?
Even though she likes you very much, sometimes Karen has a really hard time remembering each and every one of you.
Yeah, I should never have named you when I was in Cabo. Margarita's Mex Forever 762
931.
931, right.
That's why she hired me. I'll do all the remembering for her. Instead of hanging out in the office all day, I'm going to take you to a magical place.
And we don't have to watch Karen work all day?
Nope.
Doesn't that sound great?
But are we ever gonna get to see you again?
Of course, silly. You'll always be my passwords. It's just instead of waiting around all day hoping I'll need you.
It's so boring.
So lots of fun things you can do with video. Obviously, it takes some budget and some feedback. Hey, Scott, you can stop this one.
Yeah.
So video is great, but often can be kind of passive too. But obviously, if you've got these kind of budgets, it can be super engaging and super fun, and the use of humor. So while Scott moves on to the next demos too, please go to the chat window and let us know how many of you are using video, to what extent are you using video, and also the use of humor in your organization. Sun Hong wants to know what's the goal of this particular video, Scott?
So the goal of this was to help the employees understand, they've got this whole pool of passwords. There's a new tool that they were introducing on password management. That was this tool that they want everybody to use, so they can create stronger passwords, and you wouldn't have to remember 45 different passwords, and so it was more of an introduction to this password management concept that would help them, become more of a security conscious organization. And then it moves into more situational, where you get to select different components and learn about how this password management system can apply to to different concepts, applying it to your desktop, to your mobile devices, different things like that. So.
Perfect. And then we've had a lot of requests for physical security examples and cybersecurity. So if you could hop to the physical ones and then maybe hop from there right to the cybersecurity ones.
Sure. So in this one, this is again, I'll bring up. These are a number of different components that MasterCard wanted to bring up: understanding of tailgating, phishing and malware, locking your workstation. And so each one of these it's couched in the day of a life of an employee. So here we're at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we're creating this background story for these different situations.
It's 7:58 a.m. and you've just arrived at work. There is a lot to do today, and you're ready to get started. As you swipe your badge to access the office, your longtime coworker, Thomas, rushes up with a pleading look on his face.
Hey, can you let me in? I forgot my badge at home and I'm really in a hurry. I'm late for a meeting.
Okay, so in this case, we're using these little vignettes just to, again, everybody knows that you shouldn't tailgate, but we wanted to just make this more of a thought-provoking design. So
think again. Letting someone in seems like a nice thing to do, but don't do it. This is called tailgating, and it's a physical security access violation. Security is accountable for all people while on site. Badging in is how we account for everyone in an emergency situation. Thomas might not appreciate you denying him access. However, corporate security will.
I love how that moderator's whispering
review
like it's
quickly.
super secret.
yeah, so then it maps to another part of the day, and so it's couched in this day of the life theme that
Lowe's around the office and to stop for a double macchiato. You settle into your workstation and log in to check your email. This one looks odd. You weren't expecting a package.
So I'll turn off the spooky music here, but it then walks into, again, understanding phishing. Here what we're doing is trying to get you to read through and see if you can identify potential phishing alerts that on an email that might be problematic. And so, if you say, hey, this FedEx is coming from mailroom.com, that might be an indication that this is a phishing attempt. And so you have to then go through and identify all the different areas of different emails that might apply to those particular, phishing attempts. And again, it's this awareness to understand you need to be cognizant and you need to identify these different areas. So it can then be reported to the data security office. Moving forward, this one is on physical security. We've actually been doing a number of these. This one, is in a business office where you can actually move around and look at different aspects of it and decide, what's potential physical issues or not. And we've been doing this in home offices now. So the ability to, not have, again, even though your passwords, you're at home, you shouldn't have your passwords, posted on your computer at home. You shouldn't, write down, information, for companies that are dealing with customer information and leave those lying around your office. So it's again, the ability. So we've got, we can zoom in, zoom out, select different areas, across over here on the right, there's 5 different security issues that you need to find throughout this environment. And again, it just makes it, instead of just presenting them with the content, making that active learning a part of the component, I think really, again, helps to make it more memorable for the organization and for the students.
Absolutely. It reinforces our meaningful, memorable, and motivational. And if we were all in person and in the spirit of Halloween, we'd be handing out M&Ms to reinforce that. Matt wanted to know what tool we did this, the GoDaddy example, and he loves the movement aspect.
Yeah, this was, this is hard to do in a storyline type of product, a Captivate. This was actually done in HTML5, so it was, the ability to do this and move around was some custom code that our developers created for this particular interaction.
But you could do it with 360 video now too, right? Those cameras are so reasonable, and then just still shot it after that. So lots of creative ways. But just changing perspective like this really helps make it more meaningful.
Yeah.
Actually, probably more memorable.
All right. So this next one is again, I think kind of it's a fun way to think about concepts that have more than one, contact point, right? A lot of these are, tailgating, right? That's a one instance thing. You should let them in or not. It's pretty black or white of a concept. This one we call rewrite history, and we start out with saying, okay, there's a situation that's happened in this organization where a company has paid out $500,000 in a discrimination charge. And so right away, you're kind of setting the stage for something bad happened in this lesson. And then what we're going to be doing is providing that learner with a historical kind of timeline of what led up to this final situation. And the activity, the goal is to look at each one of these different components. So this was this one, you hired them on your team, you can select that, and it's going to give you a little bit more information about what happened at this point in time. And then you can decide, you know what, I should have never hired Juan in the first place, or you know what, there was nothing done wrong here. I think this is fine, so I'm going to say no change. Here, there's no change. It's just some information. Juan earns some achievement awards. Here, Juan begins to come to work late and has a few other performance issues. And so when I select that, I can see what's happened and I can change. Maybe I should just fire Juan. Maybe I need to document some feedback on what's been happening, or there shouldn't be a change. And if you make a change, then it's noted that you changed something in this timeline. So as the student is going through these and reading all these different elements that led up to this, we've also potentially changed the result of this situation. And you can say, you know what, I think I'm done. The situation comes up and nothing is actually changed. So you changed some things, but you didn't follow through on all the different elements that need to be changed. And then you can go back and try again and see if you can identify, something should have happened further down the line with a better decision. So this rewrite history. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, what makes this so fun? One, I wish we had rewrite history in our real lives, right? I'd love to rewrite this morning already a couple times. So it'd be nice to have a live, real interaction of this type. The second is it's a lot more fun to write these type of scenarios too, because you get to go to the drama and intrigue, right? You get to go to what's the worst possible thing that could happen if your learners are not doing what they're supposed to do. So start with the drama and intrigue. It makes the story a lot more compelling. And then you can back into all the little nuances and key points that could have been changed along the way to change the outcome. So Scott, with just a few minutes left, let's hop to any cybersecurity you might have.
Cybersecurity.
I think you had one teed up for AIG on phishing, or maybe even PhishMe or someone on cybersecurity.
Yeah, this one is similar to the one in.
Oh, and pause there for a minute. This is awesome. So someone was asking about the languages. Somebody translates into 41 different languages, which is just amazing. So here was the language kiosk I was referencing in the back channel, where you get to pick your language and then also you get to pick your role. So this was actually the language kiosk one I was referring to. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah. So this one again, we're going to use the same interactions, but we're going to have little bit different scenarios play out depending on if you're a people manager or you don't manage people. It's just I think another good way to make the learners feel like they're getting specialized learning tasks and activities based on their role within the organization. Even if there's slight changes, it just again takes them to a different level of connecting with the content. So in this case, we've got a couple of different areas that we're thinking about. One is information security threats. And if we go there, we're going to be presented again. And we saw this before, but I think this is an interesting, it's a little bit different look and feel. Here, this person uses credentials provided by the vendor to log in. The site forces him to create a new password before he continues. And then over here, you get some different choices on how you might actually proceed from along the storyline. And again, you're going to see some of the concepts of not giving them the answers all at the same time. Sometimes you get it wrong, you'll have to go back and select the correct answer for this particular concept, and then give additional feedback on why it's important to look at passwords in this way. So lots of different ways that this material can be applied and connected to data sets.
Yeah, and this one's a simple scene choice of scenes, right? Kind of choose your own ending. Easy to do in any of the development tools that you've mentioned online. Also easy to do. People are talking about cartoons and different media uses. Very easy to do, even if you took photorealistic and then you just put a filter on it to make it more cartoony. And Scott, just so you know, we have about a couple minutes left.
Yeah, so I think that's it. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully you've seen a lot of different examples of how content can be handled and presented in a less scary format than a lot of text. Make it active, make it really contextual, so they see how it applies to their job and they're not trying to guess how these rules and regulations and compliance content will manifest itself within their organization and their daily job, which I think is one of the key concepts that has played out through all these examples.
Awesome. And Scott, can you go to the closing slides too? Of course, your questions, we welcome them all the way along. With Alan, the thing Scott and I love so much about working at Alan Interactions is the learning never stops, right? We love sharing what we do and how we do it. So contact us anytime. You can contact me directly at lisa@allani.com, and I can connect you with dozens and dozens and dozens of colleagues that can help. So anything you have, please just reach out anytime. We offer a lot of different services, so we'd love to work with you on anything that we possibly can. And in closing too, I just want to reinforce some of our key concepts in the white papers you can check out on our website. CCAF, we mentioned a lot, meaningful, memorable, and motivational. Test tell. So lots of great resources on our site you can check out. Huge thanks to our marketing colleagues, Rich, Claire, and Carrie. Thank you so much for getting all this set up and keeping us on task. And then of course, my long-term partner in crime, Scott, thank you so much for your time. So Scotty, any final closing remarks?
No, I really appreciate everybody taking the time. Hopefully you got some great concepts that you can apply, and we'd love to hear from you if there's anything we can do to help your organization. So thanks a lot. Have a great Halloween, everyone.
Yeah, and we have a lot of webinars already recommended. So we'll be doing one on accessibility. I think that'd be a great webinar to do. We'll do one on onboarding. This one was scheduled originally to be onboarding, but then we were seeing so many scary compliance headlines. We thought we would switch to compliance. And then also our colleagues have a number of webinars coming up as well. So thanks everyone for your time. Happy Halloween, be safe and enjoy.
Okay.
We're all clear. Yep.
All clear. I just removed everybody, kicked them all out.
And I think
Except
we
for
lost Carrie and Claire too, but
Yeah, they. Hold on a second. I gotta stop the recording. I should have stopped.
stop the recording.